Testing. Testing. Alright, audio is coming through. Let's get the light out of the camera. Alright, so we're going to be continuing on with these drawerbinet builds. I recently built handles for all these. Well, I put together 6 handles. We're going to have another, what is that, 4 that we need to actually route. They actually work out really nicely. It gives you kind of a, instead of me pulling from the bottom of the door, pulling from like the middle of the cabinet, helps pull them out a lot easier. They're a pretty simple handle made over on the router table just from some leftover mahogany. So from the front, you see the profile. Then it has the groove in the back to give your finger something to actually pull on. They work out real nice, so we're going to be making a bunch of these today. And then also in the previous video before we finished up, I had to laminate a couple pieces of plywood so I can actually have enough to do the last 2 drawerbinets. So the plywood's here. It's laminated together. I do need to flush trim it. And then also for the actual door itself, I had laminated together. This is like some Luan, so it's like not quite 1/4 inch. It was a little too thin for me to use for the door panel. So I laminated some of this together. So the first thing we're going to do is trim this stuff down to size, sand up these panels so we can actually lacquer these. And then we're going to go into actually doing the door panel building the actual last 2 drawers. But we want to get lacquer on these so they can dry and kind of sit up, let the shop air out and everything else while we start building everything. So we're going to start off by trimming up all these panels and then applying the lacquer. So all of that can actually go back there. Slide this around this way. I think that'll be good. Yeah. The one thing I don't have, my tape measures up there. These are the actual panels for the front and back. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is actually trim up these panels. Again, when we laminated them, they're not perfectly flush on each side, so we're going to take a small light pass. They're about 13 inches. So we're going to take the blade, set the fence to about 12 7/8. It'll trim off one side square enough that I can then just flip it over and get the other side nice and straight. Hey, how you guys doing? And yes, happy Tuesday to everybody who is here to join us. Everybody who wasn't here when the stream first started. Currently, we're about to continue on with our drawerbinet builds over here. We have most of the door fronts done. We have two more to actually build. We're going to build the two pull-out units, and we're also going to build these handles. I made 6 of them. I have 4 more to do. These are just a simple pull-out profile made of some leftover mahogany laying around the shop. We have door panels to build and then 2 drawer units. If you guys, again, haven't seen these are essentially a combination of Lincoln Street Woodworks and John Hight's idea. Lincoln Street Woodworks did the pull-out drawers on the upper cabinets, which is pretty cool. Having drawers on your upper cabinet so you can actually reach stuff all the way in the back of them. And then I have various organizers. This one holds, tape. On the other side, it holds, tape. Anything round, really. Just a series of pegs in there. Holds my edge banding, tape, etc. On the other side, I have all of my saw blades. So, having them accessible on a cabinet. If it was buried all the way in the back, I wouldn't be able to reach it. So have them on pull-out drawers is really cool. So that was a Lincoln Street Woodworks idea. And then John Heights came up with a full extension wooden drawer slide. So I kind of took both of those ideas, combined them together to make these. So we have, again, 8 of them installed. We still need handles on a couple of them. Then we have to build the other 2 units. So that's what this live stream is for today. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And currently, I did something that I never really tried before, but I ran out of 1/4-inch plywood for the doors. So I had some 5.2 millimeter Luan. I kind of laminated this together, and that's gonna be for the door panels. And we're currently trimming those up. And then also I had some 1/4-inch plywood, and I needed some 3/4-inch plywood to build the shelves. So this is actually laminated 1/4-inch plywood. So we glued that together in the previous stream. Right now we're currently trimming everything up so we can actually spray paint the panels for the door, then switch over to actually building the drawerbinet units, the door panel, and the handles. That's the game plan for the evening. Let me get the camera back over to the table saw and continue doing all the fun stuff. Alright, so that is 11 7/8. My overall door panel is going to be 13 inches. So this is 1 1/8 smaller than my overall door. So 1/2 inch on each side. I think I'm going to make these 11 3/4. That's what I'm going to do. Because this one's smaller than that one. So 11 3/4. I think while here at the table saw, before I even switch over to the miter saw, I'm also trim up these 3/4-inch panels as well. I know what these final dimensions, these are going to, let's see, the front and backs are going to be 11 1/2. So these are going to be 10 by 10s. Plus the front and back will be 10 and 7, 10 and 3/8. Okay, yeah. 10 by 10 and 3/8. These are currently 11 and a half. Honestly, while I'm at it, I probably should go because these will be the shelves. I can do everything while I'm at the miter saw. So let me go ahead and rip. I need pieces 3 5/8 by 10. Each rip will give me 2. This is 21 inches. So I need 2 rips at 3 5/8. Then I'll take 1 rip. So that is all the pieces that need to get ripped for the rest of this project. The next thing I need to do is cut everything to length over on the miter saw. And actually what I'll probably do is cut everything to length, spray the panels, then we'll probably switch over to milling all the mahogany for the door panels. Swing the camera over. Alright, so for the door panels, the overall door is going to be 24 and 5/16 tall. These panels don't need to be the full height of the door. That one I can make 24, barely 24, but I want to trim both of these. So I think I'm just going to go like 23 3/4. 23 3/4. They'll just barely make 24 as it is now. Make sure I'm at 0. Alright, so there goes my 2 panels for my doors. I'm going to hit these with a little bit of sandpaper, then I'm going to go ahead and lacquer them. I'm trying to debate if I want to go ahead and cut everything else while I'm over here. Because all these need to get cut to 10 inches, so I might as well cut these to 10 inches so there's no dust flying in the shop. Sand those, spray those, assemble the boxes while I'm letting the lacquer dry, and then mill up the face frame stuff. Okay, so 10 inches. Oh, 10 3/8. And then unfortunately, not thinking when I glued up these panels, I need 10 and 3/8. I have 20 and a quarter, so I get like 10 and an eighth maybe. 1/8 inch blade. No, I can't. I get like 10 and 16th. So I'm going to go 10 inches instead. And all that means is that this one drawerbinet unit is going to be 3/8 inch shallower than the other one, which doesn't really matter. But I do need to readjust my stop. Alright, so now we have all of our panels for the drawerbinet units. The next step is to sand these and then spray some lacquer. It's a little cold outside, so I'm not looking forward to opening the doors, but pick which side looks best. I need a chisel. It's a little bit of glue I need to clean off. Where did I place my chisel? There it is. This is also like, 5.2 millimeter plywood, so it's not too thick. So I'm not really looking to sand it so much, just to make sure it's nice and smooth before I spray it. I have 120 grit on that. So one thing I definitely want to get is a splitter for the festal down there. And if there was a way, a splitter and like a blast gate situation for these hoses. Alright, that's good. Now we're going to take this up and spray it. Smooth the camera. Think that works. Now, let's see. Those doors are going to be 13 inches. These are 11 3/4, so they're 1 1/4 inches smaller. Which means they are because I'm going to end up doing a face frame all the way around it. I want to be able to tape off like 3/4 of an inch. So when I spray everything, I still can add glue when I actually attach everything. So I'm trying to make sure that if I do 3/4, 1.25 inches is 5/8, the whole style and rail is going to be like 1.5 inches. So yes, I can do 3/4. This is probably not necessary. Probably don't need to use glue on the back of these panels, but I decided to. Essentially, how I'm going to attach these, they're going to be glued and stapled to the back of a 1/2 inch face frame like you would have on a cabinet. And maybe you can do it without the glue. I like to be able to use put glue up there. But the face frames are mahogany, and this is going to be black. Kind of can apply glue if I lacquer the whole thing. So by taping off a section, I can leave a section raw for me to apply glue. And luckily, lacquer doesn't really take too long to dry. So I probably can lacquer these, get 2 coats on it, let it sit for like 45 minutes to an hour while I make the face frames and everything else. Gonna need to turn the air cleaner on and open up a couple doors too. All right. Now what we're going to do is take some tape. And we're going to bring it down here to our mark. And up here to this mark. And that means roughly 3/4 of this panel won't get lacquer. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just want to be able to actually, again, be able to apply some glue after these panels get finished on them. And again, that 3/4 inch bead of glue might do no help to the panel itself, might not keep it flat, and I could be wasting my time, but makes me feel better. Because again, this is not typically how I build doors either. Typically I do a full coping stick, joinery, and everything else, but the mahogany scraps I have left, or when I started this process, they were only about 5/8 inch thick. Couldn't really do too much cabinet door joinery with that, so I decided to do pocket screws, glue, and see how that holds up. And this is a project inside of my shop, so if it falls apart in 3 to 5 years, at least it looked cool. I'm being sarcastic though, it'll be more than fine. You know, I don't know how YouTube live streams work, but I wonder if I get in trouble if I was playing like music for those I don't like the radio, or if I pulled up a song. I'll probably get copyright stricken. Damn it, I hate when tape does that. Then you don't do it again. Oh well, at least this was long enough. Alright, and what I'm about to do, I don't really recommend, but I kind of do stuff like this all the time. I have to spray these 2 panels. I'm going to use probably a little less than a can of lacquer. I'm not going to wear a respirator. I do have like a large full face respirator, but I hate wearing it. I'm not going to put that on. I'm just going to open up my garage door. I have a wind air cleaner right above me. I'm going to open my back door and then probably my back garage door to get a nice draft coming all the way through here. And I'm just going to mist these. Again, I do it all the time. Not really saying that it's right or it's okay. But that's what we're about to do here. We can all imagine that I threw on the respirator. I am going to probably grab those RZ masks though, because they seem pretty convenient. Again, not to throw out more excuses. It's really my beard. I hate wearing a respirator and having the full facial hair. It gets really uncomfortable. So like again, like those RZ masks, maybe they'll be comfortable enough. I haven't tried them out yet. Open up that door. Some air coming in through there. Where's the air cleaner remote? Alright, now I'm going to take a quick breath. That's sprayed. Again, that's going to sit for a couple minutes. Then I'm going to take a quick cigarette break, spray it one more time, maybe two. So I think lacquer dries to the touch. You don't really want to apply more coats when it's still actively wet. You want to give it roughly 5 to 15 minutes depending on your environment, temperature, what you're spraying on. So once it gets dry to the touch, after like 5 minutes, I'll spray it again. You want to get at least 3-4 coats on it, but again, these are just cabinet doors. They're not going to have to go through too much torture. So I might just do 3 coats, set them off to the side, and then we could probably switch over to milling up all the face frame material and building the actual drawerbinet units and getting the last 2 hung. Well, drawerbinet units, then the actual handles. Still have to do handles. We actually seem to have a decent amount of people inside the live stream today, though. I love to see it. Appreciate you guys for joining in and hanging out with me right now. Let me actually turn that down 1. I got 37 in here. Does everybody here actually know what we're doing? Was everybody here around the beginning? Or some of you guys just joined in and not quite sure what the project is for the night? Not getting any off on my hand, so I probably can actually go back with the second coat. Just noticed this one's not even in camera. How you doing? You're not super late, but you're catching us spray our laminated door panels. If you caught any of the other recent streams, we were building drawerbinets, and now we're building the door panels for those drawerbinets. Currently, I am lacquering the door panels. These door panels are made up of, you probably can't see it, but I can show you on a piece of, I had some leftover Luan plywood. So these are actually 2 layers of Luan plywood. This is 3 layers of 1/4 inch plywood to make my own 3/4 inch plywood. I was running low on 3/4 inch material, so these are all laminated plywood that I kind of made up here inside of my shop. But after we get this lacquered up, we're gonna move this to the side, mill all the material for our last 2 door fronts, assemble our drawerbinet units. Once these will be dry by then we can actually assemble these, and we can also make our handles for our last few units. And if you're just joining in, I will show you the handles and stuff that we've gotten done so far. So these are pull-out drawer units for my upper cabinets. All these cabinets are made up of 1/2 inch OSB. It's all recycled material. The mahogany is all leftover scrap pieces, resawn to make face frames. We're currently spray painting our black panel for our fronts. Then we're going to mill up the last little bit of this. Is some scrap mahogany that I have that I'm going to use to make the last 2 door fronts. The panels are currently over there. We also have to make up our handles. We need another 4. They work pretty nice. And then these are just, again, pull-out drawer units, random organization. I haven't really delved into what I want each one of these to be. I'm going to have a total of 10 storage units going the length of this wall. So I can kind of organize them, add dividers. Most of them are just open shelves. But again, it gives you full access to the cabinet, and they're made up of full extension wooden drawer slides. So no metal drawer slides on these, but you get a full extension and full depth of the cabinet in this build. And again, this entire build, from the cabinets to the drawer fronts, the doors, all of it's reused and scrap plywood. Again, these panels right here are actually laminated plywood. So I think this whole entire project is essentially what you can do with your scraps that you have laying around in your shop. And those cabinets are a great example. So hopefully that caught you up. This generalization of what we're trying to tackle tonight. Again, it's been about 3 live streams where I've pretty much done most of the builds. I think the first stream we built the last 2 cabinets. The other stream we did the actual drawerbinet units. Another stream we did all the doors. This stream, because there's only 2 left, I would love to, if I can before my phone dies. I seem to be able to stream for about 2.5-3 hours on 100% battery. We're at like 44 minutes, so if I can get these lacquered, if I can mill the hardwood material, knobs and everything else, we should be able to go from start to finish of a drawerbinet unit, the door fronts, handles, installation, and have all that done in one live stream. That's what I'm pushing for tonight. We'll see if we can get it done. Alright, these are ready for another coat though. And again, for those who are wondering why I'm not wearing a mask, I do have an air cleaner directly above me. Garage door is open, back garage door is open. Then I have a side door, so I have a nice draft blowing all the way through here. And it's not like I'm spraying a whole car. You know, I'm not even going to go through a whole can of lacquer. So I think I'll be okay. Oh no, fuzzies have gotten in there. I shouldn't have moved it. Oh well. I will do a wet sand after my 3rd or 4th coat on this, just to make sure everything comes out nice and smooth. I really do love the ease of application of lacquer though. It's definitely one of my favorite finishes if I'm going to use a spray finish. And then black lacquer is really cool. I love colored lacquers. But what we can do while we're waiting for this next coat to dry, and no problem, I am here to help, entertain, and hopefully inform a little bit along the way. So what we're going to do while this next coat is drying, the first thing I need to do when I mill up my face frame material will be jointing everything. And realistically, lacquer dries pretty quick, so I probably can actually start jointing in between this. So I'm going to joint these strips, probably set up my planer. Yeah, so we'll probably actually going to swing the camera around this way and start setting up for that. Because after another coat, I'm going to move these off the bench and put them on the other one. I think for right now, this might be the best place for us as far as camera location. Let me cut the other lights on in the back. Yeah, that wheel was locked. Actually, I might bring the camera in front. Might be a better setup. Yeah, probably. Looks like that glare came from the light bouncing off the garage door. So if you guys are back here looking forward, should be better. Let me see what that looks like. Hey, how you doing, boss man? Glad and happy that you can join us tonight. I think back here works better. Let's see, make sure that all that looks good. Alright, so what we need to do for jointing the material, this piece right here would actually make, it's about 44 inches, so it's long enough for me to get two pieces for our actual styles on our door fronts. 44 inches. So that'll give me two. And then it is an inch and 9/16. And then an inch and 3/8. So what I want to do is be able to take cuts from this face going down. So I'm going to joint this edge and this edge. And then this one is an inch and 3/8, but it's already ½ inch thick. All right. Tools only work when they got power. Alright, I'm going to need my planer next. But I'm about to go ahead and spray another coat on those. Move those to the other bench. And then I will go ahead and rip and then plane the pieces. Woo. So I probably can sit you guys back over here. Oh, we spray this last coat on the door panels. Alright, I'm about to clear off my other table over there, sit these over there to actually dry and get away from the rest of the sawdust. Then we're going to go back to the table saw, rip that piece down to the strips that I need for my actual stiles. And then send the stiles and the rail material all through the planer. So wait, is this one long enough to get all four? We need 13 inches each. This one's enough to get three. I need one more. Is this 13 inches? That's 12. Oh, I remember. I was going to rip the last piece. Was this one long enough? Nope. No, I remember the last piece was going to come out of this. I was going to resaw this out and plane this down. So yeah, the next step would be the table saw to break down all the material. Then we'll be heading over to the planer to actually get all the face frame material broken down to proper sizes. And then we actually pocket screw and assemble all the face frames. These will be dry. We can then assemble our doors, assemble our drawerbinet unit, and get everything installed. So let me clear off this bench over here so we can get stuff moved around for us. All right. Hopefully when this project gets done, I'll be able to keep my other two benches up front clear. So like I don't have to like do all this interchanging in between operations, because my outfeed table gets pretty crowded. So I'm actually going to go beyond what I just said. I am going to put a fourth coat on these. I have enough room to do it over here on this bench. So I'm just going to set up a little space for me to spray over here. And I'll probably touch these up after we get some stuff ripped down. Alright, so now that this bench is clear, let me get you guys repositioned so you guys can see the table saw. Now it's probably better on the table. Sorry for the non-smooth transition. There we go. All that needs to get cut on the miter saw. All of this is already cut. This just needs to get ripped. That needs to get ripped. And so now we have square reference edges. The first thing I want to do is resaw this into my 1.5 inch, or what are these? 1 3/8 inches. Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually run this side up against the fence and resaw this into 2 pieces. Let's see, and that is 1.25 inches, so just over 5/8. So we'll address this rough edge when we actually send it through the planer. What I want to do before I rip everything to this final width, I want to go ahead and resaw this piece so I actually know fully what I'm working with. So what I want to do is we're going to do it in 2 passes. we can go about halfway up on the blade height. All right. No, not at all. That's why you actually flip the board end for end. Some people, when they try to do resolve pieces and they go full depth, the sketchy part ends up being when that piece wants to fly all the way back. By flipping it end for end, you're not having the blade one buried or all the way at full depth, so you don't have to worry about it being like way up here by your finger bits. And secondly, this is again to resaw and claim this piece, which will make my other rail. I live in VA, so yeah, it's definitely starting to get cold around here. Not enjoying it. And again, also, if you guys haven't noticed, I have an issue with tossing scraps. So these are probably going to become something eventually. I'm going to slide these over here like I don't have a problem. So now that we have that done, the next step is to rip everything to their final widths. And then I can set up to the planer and get everything planed to the actual thicknesses. Then miter saw. Then we actually go ahead and assemble all of our actual styles and rails for our cabinet doors. So this one is our narrowest piece. This is kind of the existing template that we're going off of. Because this is the smallest piece of mahogany that I have left. So 1 3/8 inches. And actually, I'm actually only going to make the rail 1 3/8 inches. These two pieces are going to be as wide as they can because these are going to get pocket screws. You can pocket screw or put 2 pocket screws in 1 3/8 inches. I really don't like going less than 1.5 inches just to try to keep the pocket screws from blowing out either side. 1.5 inches is where I go for all my standard face frames, which is what all those are. Those are all 1.5 inches. But considering that my last little scrap piece is not that, it's 1.3 inches, the bottom rail being narrower doesn't really matter. It'll change the look of like the last two doors by a little bit, but not really. And what we're making is custom drawerbinets. I think if you've heard of Lincoln Street Woodworks over on YouTube, he kind of gave me the idea of a way to make use of your upper cabinets by having them being pull-out drawers. So I think it's pretty awesome. But by having pull-out drawers as your upper cabinets, you get the full access of the depth of the cabinet. And again, you can't see it from the front, but again, you step to the side and you have full access. This one has tape, edge banding, etc. This other side, I'll show you guys in just a second. I make various organizers. Some of them are just shelves. This holds like a whole rack of my saw blades, like 5 or 6 of them over on this side. There's another shelf that's all the way up top. Each organizer is a little different. You know, this one just, actually, let me bring you guys around here for that. They're all kind of random. I haven't really decided what's going to go in each one. This one is just 2 shelves, top and bottom. But I can vary the height of the shelves. Like this one is lower than the shelf on that one. So I can fit taller items like my gallon jugs of glue. They sit up there real nice. And also, so Lincoln Street Woodworks gave me the idea for the upper drawerbinet idea. But then wooden drawer slides, these are full extension wooden drawer slides made of 1/2-inch plywood. Oh, that was a template. Made of 1/2-inch plywood. These slots are what makes it a full extension drawer slide. You can make them custom to any cabinet or anything you're building. These are John Heights over on YouTube's idea. So I'm implementing his idea plus Lincoln Street Woodworks to make this combination of cabinets. But also I recently hung plywood and got my lights up. So I had a bunch of 1/2-inch OSB, and 1/2-inch OSB is pretty much good for nothing. Can't really build any projects with it. So I decided to make cabinets, and then the drawerbinet cabinets gave me a way to essentially hide all the OSB. So when everything's done, you don't see any of the OSB. The drawer fronts and everything else will cover it. And what I'm doing to make them, I'm using scrap plywood, scrap, like the handles or mahogany pieces I have left over. We're gonna route in the profile and everything else. These are little, 5 and 6-inch pieces that I've had laying around my shop for quite a while. So again, this whole entire build from start to finish is reusing scraps and making something pretty cool. So I think this combination of, bank of drawers, all these, none of them came from a full sheet of OSB. These were all like 2 foot by 18 inches, 32-inch drops, because I was hanging the ceiling and the walls. So I was running full 8-foot pieces and just, whatever the offcut was. These are all made completely from offcuts. Those 2 panels that we actually sprayed earlier are 2 laminated pieces of plywood. Even the 3/4-inch plywood that's going to make up the shelves for the newer ones. These are 3 pieces of individual 1/4-inch plywood. Again, small scraps that won't any good that I laminated together. I can actually show you one. It's a combination of sandy ply and actually this is some T111 that actually I sent through my planer to make 1/4-inch. Because that's what all the actual drawer supports are. They're all some scrap T111 I have from when I did the siding on the shop. And I didn't have any use for it. So I planed it all down to 1/4-inch. And they're actually making up all the runners in there. This piece is T111. These 2 layers are, if it focuses, sandy ply. And as you can see, they're alternating layers. So this middle layer is just a bunch of short pieces that I ran horizontally and layered up with some sandy ply. So again, this whole build is just my best attempt to repurpose scraps and leftovers to make a functioning project. Like using that piece I just resawed on the table saw is a piece of mahogany from when I did a mahogany door. That was just a test piece, a Morris and Tennant test piece. And again, sitting around the shop for quite a while. I have some other Some other pieces that didn't quite make the cut. Where is it? This is a scrap piece of mahogany from when I built the door jamb, you know, for that mahogany door. And this was just too short. I would have been resawing this and making some more stiles and rails. But again, I'm using as much of the small pieces like this that I have no purpose for, trying to give them a purpose, a future home inside the shop instead of the fire pit. It's kind of what this whole entire project is for, and to give me more storage inside of the shop. So actually, with that being said, I'm going to spray these door panels up front with another coat. I'm not going to really do too much with the camera. I'm just going to face for you guys this way. So I'm going to spray these up one more time because I have just a little bit left inside this can of lacquer. So hit those again. We're going to do our final rips on the mahogany strips. Then we're going to pocket hole those. Then we're going to assemble our door panels. And after that, we'll probably do our handles. Yeah, so actually it depends on how you're playing it. I wish I had a piece of, where's another piece of 1/2-inch plywood? Yes, it really depends on how you're playing it. For the T111 situation, I actually playing the side that had the T111 grooves on it. And for all my runners over there, I have that side facing the inside of my cabinet. So I applied glue to that side, stapled it in, so the thinner section or the thinner layer is flattened up against more OSB cabinet and glued. So that's not going to peel away, and I have the full layer of the 1/4 inch on the outside. And those are only functioning as runners. But what was I about to say? One benefit to, actually I have a runner right here. So you can actually see this is some of that T111. You can see what's left over of the groove right there. This side of the plywood, if it will focus, is thinner than what's on the bottom. This side, when I glue it inside of the cabinet, will go against the cabinet wall with the glue here. Staples coming this way. And what that allows it to do is my actual full extension slide. So this gets mounted into the cabinet box. You put the side with the slot facing inside the cabinet box. You drive in the screw into your cabinet box and you drive it up here in the center, so that way you can pull out halfway and get stopped. It's bearing down on this strip down here, and then the slot now is on the opposite side, so you can use that screw to actually screw into your drawer box, and that screw will be in the center of the cabinet, which will actually be up here, which allows it to slide further forward. So again, we're using scraps. John Heights, when he did his, he used maple. Again, I figured I had a bunch of T111 laying around, 1/2-inch OSB, and I figured, see if I can make something. And again, after trying and pushing the envelope, that is what I've came up with so far. I have somebody down there from Brazil. Nice. And yes, it is. I have missed all those other chats. Yeah, it's a good use of space, and I greatly appreciate it. I do think the drawers came out pretty good, and I just answered your question. But yeah, so that's kind of the thought process behind this whole entire build. Again, utilizing scraps, trying to maximize space inside the shop. Plus, when I do my YouTube videos, like I have those cabinets up front I built. Those are black and red. My dad's a Falcons fan. These cabinets back here, I think, are going to match them pretty nicely. And my goal is, I don't really have a perfect backdrop, if you would, like when I'm doing my YouTube videos, like intros. So my doors in the back, they look pretty cool. I probably can film more in front of those. But I'm thinking about this space over here. If I use, I'm going to put some French cleats down at the bottom, kind of like what I did on the doors. All those are black 1/2-inch OSB French cleats, which they work. They're holding up a whole bunch of clamps right there on the door. So 1/2-inch OSB French cleats, by the way, it's another good use of 1/2-inch scrap, 1/2-inch OSB scraps. Again, I was burning a lot of it, then I turned around and tried to figure out how I can use it. So making cabinet boxes, French cleats. So yeah, with a French cleat wall there, those cabinets above, my custom hand tool bench. This is probably gonna be my little film sensor, probably there and in front of the door. So I'm gonna do a lot of my intros. or maybe here in front of the material bench. This one actually looks pretty good too. But again, I'm just trying to bring the shop more together. I have like 4 more cabinets or 4 more banking cabinets that need to get built overall. But again, that's the gist of the plan. So we're gonna try to tackle tonight. Again, it seems, let me check my phone battery. We're at 64%. I think the last 2 streams I was able to stream for 2.5 hours before the phone died. I want to, for the first time in this stream, get a set of doors built, build a drawerbinet box, get the box hung and install the drawer fronts, and build the handles on the router table all in one live stream, so somebody can always go back and look at the full entire process. It's kind of what we're aiming for anyway. We're gonna see if we can actually get that done. According with 64% of my phone, we burned 36% in an hour and 22 minutes. It's probably gonna burn faster as the phone gets lower. So we're gonna see what we can actually get done tonight. Hopefully we can do everything that we set out to do. I might actually start moving a little bit faster after this. So the next steps is the final rips on the stiles and rail material, sending those through the planer, and then making my final cuts on the stile and rail material on the miter saw. Alright, those got 4 coats. That makes me feel good. There's enough in this can to do another one. I might do another one just to make myself feel better. So let's head back over to the table saw, rip these pieces, then head back to the planer. And what did I say I was going to do? These 2 pieces are going to be ripped as wide as they can. This one needs to be ripped the same width as this. Which, that's about right. All right, two things I kind of want to do. I kind of want to hit this with my hand plane before I send this one through the planer. I don't want the rollers to cause it to tip. That would suck. So we're going to switch this over to the hand tool bench real quick. And I'm going to take a couple quick passes off of this. Alright, and now that can go through the planer. And I'll probably put you guys back in the back room. Also, the reason why I did that is because, again, when I resawed this one, I didn't resaw it perfectly. It's not going to show. There's a little nib right there. So I sent it through the planer. I was worried that it was going to rock and take a gouge or something. So flattening one side with the hand plane real quick. I can send it through that way. All right, now let's bring all these down to the exact same thickness. And I'll have all the material that I need for my two doors. Yeah. Turn the light on in the back. Ooh. I might not put you guys in the back. I might just leave you guys like right here. Maybe open the door. Oh, my clamps are right there. Yeah, I'll probably leave you guys right there. Nah. I need to get or either make fold down door stops. There's one thing that I would love to have. Keep these open when I actually open them up like this. They like to swing closed, especially when the garage door is open. Make sure I'll plug this into the table saw. Maybe back here so you guys can see everything. Is this better? Wish I could go widescreen when I live streamed. What am I building? All right, wouldn't hurt to show you guys again. So, what we're building, boss man, is if you've heard of Lincoln Street Woodworks over on YouTube, he came up with something he called the drawerbinet. Well, I'm not sure if he came up with it, but that's the first time I've ever seen them. Essentially, drawers on your upper cabinets, but then I made a series of organizers for each one. This one in particular holds like saw blades. I have like 5 or 6 saw blades in there. On the other side is a series of dowels that hold my tape and everything else. And again, the typical issue with upper cabinets is you can't reach the stuff in the back, so having drawers and a series of organizers definitely solves that problem. Like this bottle of glue right here. If this was inside the cabinet, it would have been back there. And yeah, I can reach it. Kind of, because I'm extremely tall. But being able to pull the whole entire cabinet itself, content-wise, out forward is extremely nice. And these are only 12 inches deep because, again, they're all made of reclaimed or leftover OSB. I recently hung all the walls and ceilings inside of my shop. So all the offcuts, the little 2 foot by 3 foot and whatnot pieces is what I use to build all of these. So try to utilize materials as best as possible. Again, this whole entire bank cabinet is all leftover pieces. I still have 2 full sheets laying up against the wall that I refused to cut. Again, I wanted to be able to do all this with strictly scraps. So that's the carcass of the cabinets. That came from Lincoln Street Woodworks. But then John Heights came out with the full extension wooden drawer slide. So I took that idea and combination with more scraps that I had some T111. I planed that down and made drawer runners. Used my leftover 1/2-inch plywood to make the full extension slides. And now I'm using my leftover mahogany pieces and whatnot to do my door fronts and everything else. And then to also show an example, again, this whole entire project is scraps and reuse pieces. This is a piece of laminated 3/4-inch plywood made up of a bunch of 1/4-inch pieces I had laying around the shop. That's 1/4-inch T111 that's been milled down. That's 1/4-inch sandy ply over on this side. So these are just made up of, again, this whole entire project, scraps repurposed to make stuff. So this whole entire project has been pretty fun for me. Right now, we're currently about to mill down all the pieces for our actual face frames. These are all the mahogany strips and everything else. But I sent all these through the planer. And all these came from, I just showed the guys the other scrap piece. I'm a woodworker, so I do a couple different projects. I built a mahogany door for a client, like the test cut for the door jamb. I just finished resawing the piece that I had for a Morrison tendon joint. Pretty much I'm resawing these pieces and turning them into the other parts that I need, like being the stiles and rails. Like, again, before I actually went to do that for the doors, this is a piece of beech that I have left over, and I almost considered this scrap. But again, all the doors are made up of cut off pieces like this. So instead of going to like my bigger pieces, like this piece, it was test pieces when I was doing my door. This one did not make it in the cut for all the scraps and door handles and everything else, but I pulled and used a lot of pieces like this that I've had laying around the shop for over a year. So again, great use of scraps, good use of my brain, trying to be creative in how I do stuff. It's been a good project all around. I hope that explained what we're tackling today. The goal, though, tonight is to actually build one of the organizers, the door, the handles. I want to actually get all the way through the process tonight. I've had maybe like 4 or 5 streams on this process so far, and none of the videos have covered the whole entire process because of timing or my phone dying in between it. My phone seems to be able to stream for probably about 2.5 to 3 hours on a full battery, and we're down to about 64% So my hopes are that I can actually finish milling all the door parts, get all this glued up, build the next drawer box, show you guys how I built the handles because I haven't shown you guys that yet. And then, I'm trying to do a lot. Let's see. You might not get all that out, but that can be on the back side. All right. First step though, let's set the thickness planer. Are these two the same thickness? No, this is the thickest one. So let's set our planer. Oh, too low. Let's turn on our dust collection. back to the miter saw. That was a noisy segment. I'll move all of this for right now, because all of those are cut. I do need to cut these, which these are set to the same length as these. So I need two. Definitely gonna be putting a splitter down here. All right. Now comes the face framing part. So for all the bottom rails, the overall cabinet door needs to be 13 inches. So I can actually cut all of these to 13. Those two are the thicker ones. These are getting cut to 13. Beautiful. All right, now I have my bottom rails. The next step is to figure out how wide they are overall. And that is 2 9/16. I need 24 5/16. I think overall for my door panels, 24 5. So 24 5 minus 2 9 is 22. And then minus 5/16. That's 21. 21 3/4. 21 3/4 is what these need to be. Do a flush cut first. So 21 3/4 and grab some clamps. Again, barely any waste in this entire build. So now the next thing I'm going to do is actually spray the panels up front with one more coat of lacquer. And then I'm going to go ahead and drill all these pocket holes and assemble the face frames. And these are just under 1/2 inch. Same thickness as standard 1/2 inch plywood. So I'll make sure I back off the depth collar on my pocket screw jig, but I can actually lower the camera. We're done with the planer for the night. Let's go ahead and hit that with one more coat. Hey, how you doing? Thank you for joining. I don't know if I'm late or not. Actually, these are more than fine. They have 4 coats on them. I'm gonna let that sit a little bit and then probably wet sand after I assemble the doors. So what I'm gonna do is pocket hole these face frames together. Where did I put the pocket hole? Here it is. All right, let's move the camera back here. I can go over there. I can go over there. These can go over there. 1-inch pocket hole bit. That. Probably gonna need the wrench to adjust the depth on the thing. Yeah, that's it, like right on 1/2 inch. So if you guys don't know, whenever you're doing pocket holes, if the material isn't actually 1/2 inch, like plywood is never actually the true dimension, you want to actually back your stop collar off. How much exactly? You know, you kind of got to play around with it depending on how. These are meant for actual 1/2 inch, is what I'm trying to say. And plywood is never actually 1/2 inch. In this case, this material isn't 1/2 inch. It is actually 7/16. So again, about the thickness of standard 1/2 inch plywood. Well, actually, 1/2 inch plywood is like 15-30 seconds, so it's a little bit thicker than this. So yeah, I want to have the stop collar backed off of 1/2 inch, just shy of it. So that way when I actually drive my pocket screws, they don't blow through on any of the material. That's that. That's that. That's already set the 1/2 inch. Undo the lock. Let's see, did they blow out the backside? I probably can actually take the collar a little bit deeper. That looks better. All right, that's 2 down. We have 2 more to go. Maybe a question here. The stop call on the drill bit. Doesn't matter where the set screw lands. Well, you don't really want it down here in the flute. Again, I always try to land on the actual flats. I don't really want it in the flute because that's where all the chips from your actual drilling is going to go. They kind of, all your chips, whenever you actually drill with the drill bit, the chips have to evacuate through the flute. So I'll try to lock it on the flat part on the outside of the flute. I hope that helps the question. Hopefully it does. But again, in this case, that's like, because this bit is meant for drilling pocket holes. I think 731 did actually make a video on it. You can use the same bit because it has that little pallet point for the actual screw. You can set your stop collar further up and drill holes. And actually, this countersinking portion is 3/8, so you can actually use it for plugs and dowels. So you can drill a hole for your screw and then have a deep enough hole for your actual dowel. So yeah, but I would definitely lock the stop collar on the, not inside the flute, but on the outside of the flute. Not really sure what to call that part. No problem. I'm glad I can help. Because yeah, just like any other blade, the flute, the groove, that is there to evacuate chips. Like on your table saw, the gullets, the space in between the blade is meant to evacuate chips. So if your gullet or your flute can't evacuate chips, the bit itself heats up and it can't perform how it should. Which is why I am almost dead set on getting a new pocket hole jig. I want the Craig Foreman, 1, because of the dust collection, 2, so I can do all this in just a simple hand crank. Not so much for this project, but in other projects where I'm doing a lot of pocket holing, it definitely would be nice to have repeatable stops. Nah, I might make one mistake tonight that I wouldn't completely stand by. I'm going to try to wet sand that lacquer at the end of this process. Hopefully she is solidified enough for a wet sanding. It's going to be a light one. I just want it smooth before I install my face frames. Which is also why I didn't spray that last coat. because I didn't want it to still be wet. All right, let's hope I got these depths right. Because these are actually, again, whenever I mill, I actually hate using pocket holes on 1/2 inch material in general. I don't use it on 1/2 inch plywood. So on the other ones, when I milled those, I did make sure they actually came out to be a 1/2 inch thick. These ones, again, using scraps, not so much, so I didn't get quite as lucky. And they're pretty close to 1/2 inch, but they're still a little under. So I'm hoping these pocket screws don't blow through. But fingers crossed. I might need to tighten that clamp up a little bit too, but we're going to find out. Well, and no blow through, so we're good. I'm playing with dowel joinery. Dowels are actually great. That's what I use for pretty much anything I'm actually building that's structural, except for cabinets. One thing I can say is I almost never use pocket holes for anything but cabinets. In this build in particular, I'm dealing with, 1/2 inch, 7/16 material. I'm not too sure on how long these doors are going to hold up. I don't think they're going to be an issue, but a 1/2 inch face frame, 1/4 inch panel of plywood, but they are going to be screwed directly to another piece of 1/2 inch plywood. So I'm pretty sure I'm not too worried about them blowing apart or cupping or bowing. So they should last just fine. So my goal was, again, to use scraps and make a functional door front, which I think I've done that. But again, they might bow into potato chips by tomorrow. Again, they've been in here longer than that. They've been in here for about a week, but you never know. So in this case, pocket holes was about the only joinery that I could do with the face frame material being so narrow. Couldn't really use any of my router bits. I could have done some type of, mortise and tenon, but pocket screws are simple enough for this project. Well, this project doesn't really call for much else. Let me make sure that gives me the length that I need. 24 and 5/16. We got 24 1/4. That'd be all right. That will be fine. Oh, sir, I must be going. I'm strapped. Thank you. And yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring. There's not a lot of woodworking live streams, let alone woodworking live streams that are actually people inside of the shop. A lot of people do shop talk. I figured I'm on my road to monetization, so a good way to get watch time hours and actually bond with anybody else who wants to join my channel. I figured live stream would be a really good way to do it. And maybe I can get some of these young kids interested in the woodworking if I'm lucky. But yeah, boss man, you enjoy the rest of your day or night. Not sure where you live. But take it easy, and I greatly appreciate you joining in. Alright, there's one face frame. I need to go ahead and route it and sand it. And then I can go ahead and staple on the piece of 1/4" plywood onto the back. We're going to put together the second one, route both of them, sand them, and we're 2 hours and 10 minutes in. Let me check the battery on my phone. We're at 38%. We've burned so far, what is that? 40%? No, we burned 30% in the last hour, give or take. So I got like another hour. We'll see how far we get. Well, I will promise, whatever we don't finish tonight, I won't go any further into the build tomorrow. I mean tonight. I'll stop wherever the stream stops. So if my phone dies and I haven't built the units or I haven't finished the handles, I'm gonna stop, and that'll be on tomorrow's live stream. So there'll be 2 streams that if you put them together, it'll take you from the beginning of building the doors, building the drawer fronts, and building the actual unit and getting them all installed. All right, we have all the face frames. So now I can bring these panels over. No, why'd you have to rip? All right, all the tape's off. Gonna give these a quick wet sand. I don't have a spray bottle on me. Besides the unhealthy smoking, we're also building some customized drawerbinet units. Essentially pull-out drawers for your upper cabinets. And they're already fairly smooth. One of the reasons why I love a lacquer finish. With just a little bit of water. This is 3000 grit sandpaper. And what that's going to do is smooth out the surface without leaving a bunch of scratches. And leave us a really smooth texture. So if you guys ever do a lacquer finish or any film finish really, I highly recommend the wet sand as your final sand. 3000 grit or higher definitely gives you a really good finish. And that is nice and smooth. We're gonna wet sand the other one. And then also, if you guys are wondering why I taped the edges, so I can actually apply glue and staples when I put this to the back side of our face frames. I'm really hoping I got enough time to at least get the handles in this live stream before my phone dies. And again, it doesn't really take much. You can also do this with steel wool too. Steel wool, paste wax is another option to smooth out your finish. But now, what we're going to get is our beautiful doors. What I do need to do is go ahead and route and sand these face frames. real quick. Then I can attach them to the doors. Hearing Pro. Oh, my hearing protection is cold. All right, we're gonna move the camera around, sand these real quick, and then we can attach them to the drawer fronts. Which one wasn't screwed in all the way? All right, let me sand these. I need to switch over the vacuum and the sander. Oop, wrong one. Where did I put the black? did make one whoopsie. I actually just tightened that screw just a little too tight. And my remedy to fix it is I'm going to fill it with some thick CA glue. So then when I sand it, that'll take care of that crack. And I will call it an accent by having just a little bit of black infill, almost like epoxy. There we go. Oh yeah, let me go ahead and move the camera around. Yeah, that'll work for sanding these. And I do also need to check where my battery is. We are at 29% as far as the battery. Should definitely be able to get these doors done. Fingers crossed on if I can at least get these handles done. And I'll probably have to assemble the actual drawerbinet unit tomorrow. I'll plan another stream. Again, I'm pretty sure, like everyone else, I love sanding. definitely why I plan to buy the Surf Prep sander with the foam pad. So sanding contours like this or any type of profile no longer needs to be done by hand. I mean, if you look at that, that's real rough. So don't want to leave it like that. That wouldn't feel nice across the hand. That will do. I should put that over there. All right. So now we can assemble these door panels. Wish I had a card scraper. That'd have been nice. All right, but yeah, let's swing the camera back over there to that side again. We'll pull out the air hose and we'll get all of those attached. And then we can go ahead and probably do handles or assemble the next drawer box. Let's see, where are my 1/2-inch staples? Staple gun, 1/2-inch staples. Now where did I put my glue at? Is it on this side? Where did I put? And Oh man, I went out there for a second. Not sure for how long. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Let's see, where did my phone say 25%? All right. So these are burn-in inch, 11 1/4 wide. And that is 10. So if I do ½ inch and ½ inch on either side, no. Wait a minute. No, that is 10 1/4 right there. So I can do 3/4 on either side, and it'll cover. So now I'm making reference marks on the back side of the panel. So I can then line up my panel too. And if I do my math right, it should be black throughout the whole piece. Unless I did my math wrong, which is also possible. All right, let's find out if I am any good at math. Before I go too far, to make sure I didn't screw up. And we look good. Got a little glue squeeze out to wipe up, but right where we wanted her. Now let me finish nailing this off. And then we can do the second one. And that is how I've been building the doors for my drawerbinets. Gotta make sure I don't get too far ahead of myself and let my phone die. Alright, this is ready for a coat of teak oil as a finish. We have 2 door panels completed. I think we're going to switch over to doing handles next. Let's see, where's the best place for... I'm going to come over here to my router table. And for the handles, we have one already mocked up. It's a simple drawer pull. We used a cove bit to relieve the material on the back side, and then a round over on the face. So the first thing we need to do is change up the bit in our router. Alright, let's set this. That looks good for the router table fence. That's good, that's good. Let's plug everything in and then run dust collection over here. I'm going to end the stream now. We're going to pick back up here tomorrow. It has dropped from 28% down to 3% really fast. This is where we've gotten so far on the profiles for the handles. And what we're going to be aiming for is this. We're going to take a couple more passes tomorrow. We're going to pick up doing the handles and actually finishing up the drawerbinet units back there in the back tomorrow. See if I can give you guys a quick pan around before we sign out. I do appreciate everyone who's came through and watched so far. What we've been tackling is building these upper drawerbinet units. They're pull-out drawers for upper cabinets that I can house various organizers into. All made from scraps and pretty much stuff laying around the shop. They also have wooden full extension drawer slides. We just finished doing 2 more door panels. Tomorrow we'll actually tackle our last 2 cabinet drawers, our handles, and then get everything installed. If you guys have enjoyed, I greatly appreciate you guys from checking me out. Please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll be seeing you guys